I wanted to touch on what you were basically saying before about feeling not like qualified to have this conversation yet. But I feel like for a lot of the listeners, hearing from someone like you who was really like at the beginning is a lot more useful than maybe listening to a conversation with someone that's like 10 years in, because during that conversation we could be speaking about the stuff they've done in like the past 5 years rather than the stuff they did in the first year. Do you know what I mean?
No, it's so true. And I think hopefully it's helpful and relatable to people who might be in a position where they're like, oh, I would love to start my own brand but don't know how to start. Because I actually do get quite a lot of DMs of girls saying to me like, I
can imagine,
how do you start? And like I love speaking to people on stuff like that, because you know, when I was first starting, I would love to have someone kind of be like, oh, do this, try this. So yeah, I think it does help to have these conversations.
This is a bit of market research for me, but when you like first started on YouTube, like where obviously you're typing things like, oh, how to design this and how to design that, but like where else would you go? Were there any like particular channels that you would go on to like find out specific things?
Do you know what? There was this one channel where like she's amazing and she taught me all the tech pack stuff, but I can't remember it, but I'll try and find it and send it to you, and you can put it in the comments, because she was amazing.
Katie, so you know, obviously we've been speaking about like not the battle, but like the difference. How can I say the battle? Like the intersection between like craftsmanship and the actual, I don't know, the not necessarily beauty, but how good the clothes are. Aligned with like the branding, so the numbers on Instagram and all this stuff. Being such a new brand, how do you kind of stay motivated to keep going when it's like what you're doing isn't necessarily reflected in how much the brand is growing? I don't know if you can relate to that.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think for me, it's not, I'm quite big on just like let me just focus on my thing. Let me do like even the pieces I put out, like I put out pieces that I want, like the stuff I put out is literally stuff that I want to wear. And I'm just making it and putting it out. And like, that's what I want to do for all my collections. Like, I don't want to ever make stuff because I'm like, oh, this is on trend, or this is what I should be doing, or let me try and be more out there. Like, I literally just want it to be me. And that's where I think I'm not trying to focus too much on all that other kind of stuff, basically. Again, that's where I just think I just want to put all my energy into like me making sure I'm staying true to myself, being authentic, putting my own craftsmanship in, all this kind of stuff, and everything else, to be honest, can come and go. Because even, you know, when you look at followers and all this kind of stuff, it's like I'd rather have less followers of people who actually fuck with my stuff and they get it and they are aligned with the brand, rather than bare people following me or wearing it just because it's on trend, and then as soon as it's off trend, they're not interested anymore. I
think that's a really good mentality to have, because nowadays with social media, things come and go so quick. So if you do have that mentality of just trying to follow the trends, eventually when what you do is kind of out of trend, no one's really going to mess with you.
Which inevitably it will. Do you know what I mean? Like you said, trends are always revolving, and I think brands, that's where sometimes brands mess up, because you need to just keep your integrity and keep doing what your brand, you know what I mean? Like what's true to you, basically.
And that's why I think it's so good that Ffith has a very strong core message. Do you know what I mean? What does the acronym stand for again?
For females in the hustle.
For females in the hustle. Don't forget that. Females in the hustle. So I've got 2 more questions. You obviously spoke about goals for 2022, but do you, Katie Griffith, do you have like any long-term goals within fashion?
My long-term goal is literally to just work on Ffith, like that, just for it to be fully sustainable, for me to just work on that full time. Like, you know, like we were talking earlier, like I don't necessarily want to be a millionaire, or I mean I do, but do you know what I mean? Like I will happily just take on modest income and just be happy and just do this full time and just, you know, find fulfillment in that. That's basically my long-term goal and dream. Like I'm trying to
that's good. That's good to hear. And finally, we asked this to all of our guests. You've given us a lot of advice, or our listeners a lot of advice throughout this conversation. Is there like one piece of advice you could leave our listeners with?
Oh, that's a good one. I feel like, again, this is probably a shameless plug because it comes back to my first collection, but the name of my first collection is Anything You Want Is Yours. And that's something that like is like my mantra, because I just feel like anything you want is yours. Like you're capable of doing anything you want to do. And I feel like if, you know, I think we're half the time, like we're in our own way because we think, you know, again, like, oh no, I'm from Barry, like I can't do that, or I don't have enough followers, or, you know, people might think this of me if I do this, but literally anything you want to do is yours if you just do it. Do you know what I mean? That's my piece of advice and my mantra.
I love that. Like, Kate, this was a sick conversation.
Oh, I hope so.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, and you said this was like your first podcast.
Yeah,
as well.
It's my first podcast.
No, you're natural. Honestly, I can't lie. You're a natural, man. It was sick. I'm looking forward to hopefully in the next few years when you achieve more stuff, we can have another conversation.
Yeah,
we can have another conversation.
Yeah, 100%. No,
so
this
thanks
has
for coming on.
So lovely.
Thank you for watching another episode of Where's My Podcast. If you ever want to take in future episodes on the go, you can find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Whilst you're there, please leave us a 5-star review. It would really help. And also, don't forget to follow us on our Instagram, WMTV_LDN, to keep up to date with the latest goings on in UK fashion. Keep it locked.